Hello, you amazing hacker. Yes, you amazing hacker, you heard me well. And because you're amazing, you deserve to not waste any more time than you have to. Now I'm going to show you a tool that's going to speed up your pen testing a whole lot. So let's get right into it, shall we? This tool is by Agrep. Sorry if I butchered your name there, but you're not exactly making it easy on us. So I think I'm forgiven for this one. Now what this tool is, it is basically a collection of tools. So it runs inside of Docker. And if you're like me, I run on macOS, for example. So a lot of these tools are not available out of the box on my operating system. I have to use Docker for them. I'm also going to link a video I made about Docker for you guys a while back. And what you basically just have to do is that you have to install, if you look over here, the Docker desktop client. So my Docker desktop client is running in this case. And then you have a Docker pull command, which you can just copy. And we'll throw that in here into our command line. And as you can see, let me pull up the font for you guys real quick. So there we go. If you pull this in, you're going to see a whole lot of images downloading. It's going to take a while because it's a big image, but believe me guys, everything that's in this image is well worth it. Now when we have this image pulled, we can open it later. First check out which tools we have. Now we have some normal tools that you would find in any Linux distribution, like some operating system tools, some networking tools, some development tools. You guys can see later on what we mean by that, but you can also find some connection packs to hack the box, so it's easier to make VPN connections to hack the box through this way. And there's even a special command to do this. I'll show you guys later. You have a lot of popular word lists on there, like the sec lists that I showed you guys, the dirbuster lists, the derb lists, the fuzzDB, wfuzz, rocku.txt. All of these popular word lists are available on the machine themselves. It's also possible to proxy all of the traffic that you send to this machine through burp. So really interesting if you like testing through burp like I do. You can easily just set a proxy, send that proxy to burp like you would set your proxy in Firefox here, and it will automatically capture your traffic if you set your scope right, that is, of course. It has exploit database installed, which is a giant plus for me. You don't just have to go onto exploit DB every single time. A lot of tools for password cracking, which a lot of them are not available by default on my macOS, so big plus for me again. Linux enumeration tools, again, not available for me, so big plus. Tools installed to discover services running, they mean stuff like nmap, mass scan, mass DNS, that kind of stuff. Tools installed for directory fuzzing, such as dirbuster, gobuster, wfuzz, that kind of stuff. We'll show you guys a little bit more about that later. And some monitoring tools for Linux processes without root permissions. And probably the most important of all, Z shell, because it looks good. Sorry, ZSH shell, that is, of course. Now let's go on to the tools, shall we? These are some pretty basic operating and networking tools like traceroute, netcat, nettools, IPutils, ping, that kind of stuff, whois, hosts, all the kind of stuff you would do for some basic network enumeration that you don't need too much advanced tools for, like nmap. You would do with this kind of tool. Then you also have your developer tools, of course, your Git, curl, wget, Ruby, Go, Python pip3, Python 3, all the good stuff that you need. And then of course you also have your pen testing tools. So these are more the nmaps that we were talking about, AMAS, GoBuster for subdomain enumeration, by the way, alt DNS, spice, sublister, find domain, subfinder, and it's really easy to run these tools. So let's run a few, shall we? All of these tools, you can read them for yourself on this page. But when you scroll down a little bit, you can see that there is some usage header here. Now in the user header, you can see some prerequisites. You have to have the Docker service installed, of course, which I showed you guys. And then you can run this Docker image in two ways. First of all, you can clone it using the Git repository. So these are the commands to do that. But you can also run it from the Docker Hub, of course. Now you can run it in its most basic form, and in this way it's going to have just basically, you're going to come into the Z shell. So let's do this, shall we? I'm going to enlarge the font size a little bit more so it's more easy to read for you guys. There we go, and I'm going to, let's see, we have some errors here. Docker run. I'm just going to use the normal command that I was using, so we'll go over this real quick. So what this command is doing, and we'll see if we can find some differences. We want to run a Docker container, a new one, and we want to, the -v command here is telling us that we want to mount the temp folder into the pentest folder in the Docker container. We're giving it a name, and okay, I see where we went wrong. So let's take this command again. So what we did wrong here is we didn't put this grep there in front of it, because we're not running this from the local, we're not running this from GitHub. We actually pulled this from Docker, so we actually have to specify that as well. So if we go back to this command, we actually have to go back here and put this username in front of it. There we go. And now we still can't, because the container name is already in use, it says. So let's just rename that container real quick. I'm running some scans in the background, so that's why. And now when we run the command, you can see that we come into a Z shell environment. And here we can run any of the tools that we want that we just saw. So for example, we saw GoBuster. We can just type in GoBuster, enter, and here we go. We already have GoBuster. Do you want sublister? That's no problem. There we go, we have sublister. Let's see, what other tools do we need? Let's find a few, shall we, here? Of course, we can look for WP scan. Easy enough to use. Let's do some subdomain enumeration with MS. Let's do some web scanning with Nikto. So as you can see, all of the commands are simply available in here. Now I'm going to exit this real quickly because this was the command that I was using. Now I'm going to show you guys how you can interchange files between your Docker container and your local file system. So what Docker is it's basically running like a virtual machine on your system, but I'm not going to call it a full virtual machine because the guys who know what I'm talking about are going to be really pissed off at me. So let's just call it a container, because that's what they call it in Docker language, you know, a container. So you run this container and you can imagine this as like a box, and this box contains all the information that you need to run the tools that are inside of it, but it cannot interact with your host system by default. So if you want to access that box, you're going to have to find some way to, for example, the -v command is going to mount a local folder, and then you have to put a double point, and then you have to put the folder in the Docker container that you want to mount it into. So if we do this, if we add the -v command, we're going to, if we do an ls, we can see that we have a new folder in here called Pentest. And if I get that Pentest folder, you guys are going to see, if I do an ls of that Pentest folder, you guys are going to see that it's filled with everything that was in my temp folder on my local host. So that's a way to interchange files, for example. Now, if we go back to the description real quick, if you say, for example, you want to make a VPN connection with, for example, Hack the Box testing or Try Hack Me testing, do you have an easy, let's go back, do you have an easy configuration for that when you run from the Docker container? So let's see here, if you want to use it for Hack the Box, here we go, this is the command. They tell you to add a few stuff in here. And this way you're going to be able to easily spin up your Hack the Box VPNs. This one is for mounting a local directory like we just saw you. And if you guys want to expose the internal services running on here, so say for example you want to do python-m simple HTTP server, there we go. Now let's say I want to export this port 8000. What I did, by the way, guys, is I started just a simple HTTP server like the name says it. Now let's say I want to export this port and I want to expose it to the external system, to my host in here. I'm not going to be able to access this from my host right now because, again, this is not shared from outside of the host. If I want to do that, I'm going to have to exit again. I'm going to have to rerun my command, and this time I'm going to have to enter another parameter. So this time we're going to enter the -p parameter, and I believe it's the port that you want to map to the port that you want it mapped to. So this would be the boxes port, and this would be your local port. So if you run this command like you see here, and there are some other ports that you can map, of course, so you can use this command more than once. Sorry about that, by the way, guys. So if you run this command, you can see that there are some things that you can do with this specific container. I really like this one, by the way, because that's all of the tools that I need. I use it all of the time. Thank you so much for the creator. I'm going to try one more time. Grab, thank you so much. This is a genuinely good tool. It deserves a lot more attention than it's already receiving, and I hope you guys enjoy this tool, because I really do, and I hope you enjoy it too. Now, if you guys have any Docker tools that you enjoy while pen testing or bug bounty hunting, let me know, because I'm always interested to find more of these tools. I hope I'll see you guys in the next one, and I'll see